When we speak about the Soviet time, especially those times of Stalin, that this was a sad period. In the 20s, the destruction of Buddhism didn't go that fast as it was going with other religions for one special reason, or maybe for two special reasons. First, the Buryats, who were the most numerous Buddhist population in Russia that period, were important people for the borders of Russia and for the contacts with the Asian people. So they were able just to move outside of the borders if they were pressed too heavy. And the Soviet government didn't want it. This was one reason. And the other reason was the idea of the world communist revolution. So there were two or three secret missions to Tibet sent by the Soviet government, who was searching the way for the Soviet army to go through Tibet to India, to attack British capitalism in India. And these secret missions could reach the Dalai Lama only with the help of Agwan Dorjiev, Gawan Dorje, as he is called by Tibetans, who was one of the advisors and of the 13th Dalai Lama. So the powers were reluctant to press Buddhism too much, to not to spoil the relations. But when in the beginning of 30s, 31, 32, they understood that the Dalai Lama would not cooperate, and they started the collectivization, that is to take all the land from the local people and to make kolkhozes, collective farms, throughout the country. There were revolts, and revolts were connected with the only educated people in the republics, lamas. So Buddhism was totally crushed, and in fact all the lamas, or almost all, were arrested and sent to concentration camps or shot. And Buddhism eventually was finished as a living religion, officially recognized in Russia. No monastery remained intact. Of course, this period when there were no legal Buddhist monasteries or no legal Buddhist preachers couldn't be too long. And after the Second World War, when Tuva was a kind of independent during the Soviet time until 1944. Tuva was joined officially to the Soviet Union, and at that time it had two monasteries in Tuva. And also after the Second World War, the Soviet government wanted to have more influence on Asian policies and international policies. So they wanted to show the freedom of religion in this country too. So it was decided upwards that some official representation of Buddhists should be revived in the country. It was allowed to open two small monasteries, Ivalginsky Datsan and Aginsky Datsan, in 1945 and 46. So these places became where there stayed only a handful of lamas, maybe around around 20 in Volginsky, around 10 in Aginsky, Datsan. So this was the only legal Buddhist places in Russia. Kalmyks were not allowed to open their own, and Tuvinians were not allowed. So for religious holidays, those who were able came to Ivolginsky Datsan. I met some Kalmyk lamas traveling there for the big holidays. And it continued like that until Gorbachev came.